So what are some examples of limiting temptation coping skills? Well, I'll give you some of my personal examples, right? So sometimes I get bored. Yep. Just like everybody else, sometimes when I'm on phone conversations, having phone meetings, sometimes I'm in-person meetings, sometimes when I'm doing like a workshop and I'm listening to folks. Like it's hard not to be bored sometimes, right? So what I tend to do, something that I do a lot that really helps me, is I doodle. So I draw on a piece of paper. I'll kind of draw little swirls and stuff. I'll also take a little bit of notes. If anyone's ever seen my notes, they tend to look like doodles a little bit. Like I draw a lot of arrows and things like that. And that actually helps me think and keep from being bored and keep me focused. And so I am actually more engaged in the conversation that I'm having, more engaged in the meeting or workshop when I do this. One thing to really point out, though, is that not all people understand this. So make sure that you explain yourself and make sure they understand that when you're doodling like this, it's not as a means to be disrespectful or that you're not paying attention, but that actually it's a coping skill for you that helps you keep focus when maybe you're having a hard time doing so. So it's not always the best thing to do because some people might take it the wrong way. So make sure that you clear that up before you are using this as a skill. It's why I use it a lot on phone conversations because people can't tell that I'm doing it and they just actually notice that I'm more focused, right? Another thing that happens to me is, right, sometimes I have a lot of energy. I'm one of those people that, my legs are always moving when I'm sitting down. I like to pace around when I get excited, that kind of stuff. And so that's not a bad thing. But then sometimes, when I need to just kind of sit and focus and be still, more or less, then one limited temptation coping skill I use is a stress ball, right? It helps me get out some of that energy, that nervous energy, without being very distracting or bothersome for other people. It doesn't get me in extra trouble or anything like that. And again, even as an adult, if you know me, if you see me around, you probably notice I actually have a stress ball in my pocket at almost all times, and I'm often playing with it while I'm talking to people. And again, not as a means to be distracted, but actually doing this gets out some of that extra energy. It keeps my cup from overflowing with energy, and it keeps me more focused and more on point, and it really helps me. The key, though, is these are things that work for me. So when you're choosing your own coping skills, make sure you're really thinking them through, and it's only good if it's going to be something that you will actually do. So choose the ones you practice carefully, right? There's a big list of different limited temptation coping skills that you're going to look through. I wouldn't actually do all of them because not all of them work for me. I found that these two that I just shared with you work very well for me, and so those are the ones I tend to do most often. I do have some other ones that I use, though, when I don't have a stress ball in hand or it might be perceived as rude for me to doodle. So keep that in mind. You need to have at least three just because you never know when you're going to need not have resources around you or need a backup plan, right? Like the two I mentioned work really well for me, but I can't do them all the time, so I need to have at least that third option. And so you will need the same too. So make sure you're really paying attention and thinking carefully when you choose your own.